That's what's important, and it shows his commitment to you. If you know anybody, first of all, if you live in Maryland, you know what to do. Everybody I've talked to from Maryland that I know who's called into the show is voting Ben Jealous in November. We need you to do the same thing if you have not already yet made that decision. And if you have loved ones in Maryland, encourage them to vote for Ben Jealous for governor of Maryland. Our brother Ben joins us now. Hey, man, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good, man. It's great to hear your voice.
It's good to hear yours as well. First of all, you all have got if I'm not mistaken, I've been kind of trying to follow it on Twitter. This weather situation could impact your state, could impact Maryland, couldn't it?
It could. It could. And we've declared a state of emergency here. And that's wise. We've been inundated by these massive storms now for months. And we've had floods in several places. And so it's probably wise. Our state's pretty water saturated. So the thought of a hurricane coming anywhere near here is worrisome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll be thinking about everyone there, and hopefully everything will be for the best.
Amen.
So tell us what's up. You are talking about something new called Innovation Maryland, right?
Yeah, we rolled out a plan to really get our economy going again. I mean, in actuality, everything that we're talking about, from fully funding our schools and turning them back into being the fattest pipeline of talent into every industry in the state, to taking on the pharmaceutical companies and getting healthcare costs under control and passing Medicare for all, to our plan that we rolled out in the economy. Everything is designed to get our economy moving again. Maryland has the lowest job growth in the region, the lowest income growth in the region. If you put that in perspective, if we had Virginia's growth in both those categories, we'd have 50,000 jobs. We would have created 50,000 more jobs over the last 4 years than we have, and we would all have about $8,000 more in our pockets on average, because that's the average job growth and income growth in Virginia adapted to Maryland. So what have we said? Well, we said, one, we've got to create a tax system that's fair. It's simply not fair that hedge fund managers pay a lower tax rate than their secretary, and the rest of us have to subsidize it with a sales tax that's higher than many other states in the region. And so we said we'll fix that. We will create a more progressive tax code. We'll make sure that hedge fund managers pay their fair share, and the rest of us don't have to pay more than our fair share.
Mm-hmm.
We've also said that we will put our government squarely on the side of our growing businesses, our small businesses, our local businesses, and we'll do that by creating a small business owners bill of rights. It makes it clear that entrepreneurs in Maryland will have a government that's on their side, that seeks to remove obstacles, not be an unnecessary obstacle. We will invest more money in startups founded in Maryland. It's something that I've been personally involved in. It's growing our startup economy, and we know that we lose a lot of startups founded in Maryland to other states because they find it hard to find capital to grow. So as a governor who's been a tech investor, I will use my bully pulpit to convene investors in the state and bring investors from outside the state to help grow our startups. But we'll also do more of that directly through our government, putting more of our resources in growing the next big tech company right in our state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we also talked about the need to remove barriers, including discrimination. Women are 53% of the state of Maryland. People of color, of all colors, of all genders, are 48.5%. And the people of color and women of all colors are about 75% of the state. And yet for years now, our government has said, well, if all those groups, if 75% of the state ever gets 29% of the contracts, we should throw a party. That's a big aspirational goal.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so I said as governor that we'll take that 29% goal for procurement for women and people of color-owned businesses, and we'll turn it into a floor, and we will, focus on actually building an economy that's as diverse as the population of the state. My firm, Cape World Capital, we are invested in 150 startups. 68% of them, 68% of them have a founder that is female or black or Latino. In fact, our fastest growing company founder is all three. She's Afro-Dominicana.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a reminder that when your door is wide open to all the genius in your state, in your country, on the planet, then you're actually building a meritocracy, and then you get to actually grow as fast as possible. And so given that we're stuck in our economy, I'm saying let's open up the door to everybody, because we all know genius is constant in every zip code, and there's a lot more that we need to be doing to make sure that where you're born in the state, no matter what color you are, because of class or gender or race, doesn't dictate how much you can contribute to our prosperity.
Yeah. This is all great, Ben. And as you and I have discussed, Ben Jealous with his folks, running for governor of Maryland, benjealous.com. As you and I have discussed in the past, I mean, this is very practical governing and governance. I mean, that's what being a governor really is all about. How can a state in this day and age be successful without some type of industry and some type of job market for its residents? Being in a state like Maryland, or any state for that matter, that's got to be priority number one.
It does. I mean, it's no matter where you walk, and you go through the mountain west of our state, and you meet with people in towns that used to be industrial towns, where the only thing that's been built recently on the site of an old factory is a prison. Mm-hmm. Or you move through Baltimore City, neighborhoods where my mom grew up, like Upton, that were ground zero of the uprisings a few years ago. Or you sit with folks in small towns and rural areas on the Eastern Shore, or Southern Maryland, and what you hear is the same, which is the net result of our economy being stuck, and in many places for generations. So what you hear about is the opioid crisis that's out of control. Mm-hmm. What people whisper about are increased suicides, especially, frankly, amongst older white men. What you hear about are increased homicides, shootings up across the state, 40%, and that's if you take Baltimore out of the equation. Typically amongst young black folks, especially young black men, but young black women as well. And when you kind of dig through all the short-term fixes, what people always come back to is we need more jobs. We need better jobs. Our young people need to feel like they have a future. Our mid-career people do as well. And so I'm very clear that you can't restore the Democratic Party to being the party of working people if we're not also the party of small business people growing businesses across our state. Mm-hmm. And you can't restore hope if you're not prepared to build an inclusive 21st century economy, where people can really thrive based on their God-given talents and their drive to work hard, regardless of whether they were born in an area that's low income, or an area that's resegregated, or they're a woman. And so that's what we're focused on. And as an investor who does that all day, every day, who is a partner at one of the, if not the most inclusive tech firm on the planet, mm-hmm. We are, I think I'm kind of uniquely prepared to help build a more inclusive, robust economy for our state.
Of course you are. And not to mention the the importance of small business in a state like Maryland. Small business is very important, isn't
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you'll often hear me say growing business, not small business. It
it?
means the same thing. The reason we say growing is because when you are a small business person, someone keeps telling you you're small, you feel like they're putting a cap on your growth. But you're absolutely right. It's our local entrepreneurs and folks with fewer than 500 employees, so technically small businesses, that create more than 50% of our jobs. And yet, when you listen to them, there's needless barrier after needless barrier. And so, I mean, you can just look at the business property tax in Maryland, where in Virginia, the minimum cost is $75. In Maryland, the minimum cost is $350. In Virginia, it's a web-based simplified form. Anybody could fill it out.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, next year, you'll find all of the data there, so you just have to review it and click a button. In Maryland, the form's so complex, you'd be taking a real risk not to have an accountant fill it out. Well, that accountant's going to charge you hundreds of dollars an hour, and ultimately, and you end up typically spending $1,000 to process and pay a tax that in Virginia will cost you $75.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the type of thing in Maryland that we're going to benchmark. One of the other things I said in our plans is we will benchmark all of the incentives, all of the regulations, all of the processes in our state versus other states for that growing businesses have to deal with, and make sure that Maryland is truly the best place in the region to start and grow your business.
Yeah, and that's necessary. You also mentioned a minority business. I know that was a big priority of Congressman Parris Mitchell and State Senator Clarence Mitchell the third. But I like what you said. Rather than a ceiling, we ought to be talking about a floor.
That's right. And so it is for our veteran-owned businesses. Really, in Maryland, it's most obvious when you look at gender. It's most obvious when you look at people of color. But what we're really suffering from in many ways is a system that just protects whoever, as they would say in Mississippi, whoever been done had the contract. And we've got to create a place where truly it's, our decisions are made on who can do the best job, and quite frankly, which company that if they get the contracts is going to make our state stronger. Cannot simply be about this is the lowest cost contract. It ultimately has to be about making sure those dollars are turning around in our state.
Right.
And helping to strengthen our state.
Yeah. No, that's very, very important. I noticed, too, that you all now have a coordinated campaign with some of the other offices in the state, correct? Some of the other people running for office in the state, I should say.
We are laser focused on turning out more than 1 million voters. We know that the people of the state are fed up. It's been 4 years under Hogan, and our schools have fallen in the rankings every single year he's been in office, and always had to do better at the end of the day, really, is send more money to private schools in the form of vouchers rather than focusing on fully funding our schools. And we know that folks are fed up. The healthcare costs keep surging, and the governor really has no plan. Of course, we have a plan. And folks are fed up that we're dead last in income growth and job growth all over the state. And so we've opened up 15 offices across the state, from the Western Mountains to the Eastern Shore. We are opening more offices every week. We've hired now about 50 organizers across the state. We're hiring more organizers every week. And it's because, one, we want to make sure everybody who wants to be involved can be involved. Two, we know the only way Democrats win in Maryland is we turn out more than 1 million voters. That's what we did in 2010, the last time that we won the governor's race, and that's what we'll do this year. 2014, we only had 10 organizers on the ground on Election Day. 2010, we had almost 100. Right now, we're at 50, climbing towards 100 because we're totally focused on turning out more than 1 million voters. Folks want to get involved, they go to benjealous.com and sign up. or they go to mddems.org and sign up. It's a coordinated campaign, so either will take you to the same place. But folks should also feel confident that they can just go there, look for the address of one of our offices, and then go over to that office and volunteer. The offices are open at least from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Some open a little earlier, stay open a bit later. And they all can help you make phone calls today. They can all, if you want to put on your poncho and go out and knock on doors, they will help you do that too.
Folks, and we need that. Again, all of this still boils down to turnout. We can win any one of these races, any one of these high-profile races, and Ben's race is definitely in the category of high-profile. If we get our folk out to vote, that's pretty much the bottom line. And so we invite you all to help out. And if you don't live in Maryland or what have you, you can still go to benjealous.com and volunteer, make your donations. Money is still needed to help get more of these organizers on the ground. $5, $10, $25 donations, more if you can, but small dollar donations work. And let's elect a civil rights leader and a community organizer and an educator and an investor and a road scholar. Ben is prepared for this. He is qualified for this. Absolutely. That's not even in question. It really boils down to us getting organized and to us getting our people out. We know you agree with his idea. He doesn't have a single bad idea. You know, it's really ideas versus stagnation when it comes to this governor's race in Maryland. And so let's make history. We've talked about making history in Georgia. We talked about making history in Florida. 2 weeks ago, Ben and Andrew Gillum were on the air together. Probably the first.
That's the only time.
Say it again.
So that's the only time that's ever happened.
That's right. I mean, two African-American gubernatorial candidates on a broadcast medium at the same time. So, you know, we can get this done. It's really up to us, and it's really about us believing in ourselves, believing that we can win these elections, that we can get this done, that we can get out to vote, motivate ourselves to get out to vote, and then believing in ourselves and knowing that with someone like Ben Jealous talking about and implementing policy that creates more diversity when it comes to business ownership, small businesses, to helping to create industry in the state of Maryland, clean technology, all of the above. This is the future. This is the future. And I know Ben, being a young man, is innovative, and there's nothing but good things that can come from a Ben Jealous administration in Maryland. So please, ma'am, please, sir, benjealous.com to get involved. We'll be talking to Ben again in the days and weeks to come. Lord, Ben, in September, November be here before we know it.
Oh, that's true. I mean, we're inside 60 days now, and you know, Mark, given your roots as an activist in D.C. And in Maryland, I know there's lots of listeners in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. And if folks want to support Stacey, support Andrew, support me, there'll be a unique opportunity this Friday night at the Howard Theater. Get this, at 11 p.m. Why? Because it's CBC week and things go 24 hours. But Howard Theater, 11 p.m. this Friday night. All three of us will be on stage. It's the only time it will happen in this campaign. And also Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and Lieutenant Governor Fairfax will all be there as well. And I will be so bold, Mark, because we are brothers, to say I think you should be there too, broadcasting it at 11 p.m. at night as you are, wont to do sometimes. Or just recording it so you don't have to get on the air so early on, Monday morning. But it's going to be quite a night. We will have 2 of 3 black senators in the U.S. Senate. We'll have, I think, the only black lieutenant governor in the country. And we'll have the 3 black Democratic nominees for governor all in one place.
Yeah, no, that's important. And folks, again, it's ours. It's ours to win. That's really what it is. If we mobilize, take advantage of this, and get out and vote, and everything that's going on in the world today ought to mobilize us to do so. BenJealous.com. Let me also shout out the Collective PAC, which is supporting all of these candidates, collectivepac.org. Ben, thank you. Where you going to be today, man?
I am going to be all across the state once again. I'll be in Baltimore. I'll be in Prince George's. I'll be in Montgomery County, kind of up and down the kind of central core of the state. And later in the week, I'll be out in Western Maryland and over in the Eastern Shore again. One thing that we're doing, Mark, is we are making sure, quite frankly, that we keep running a statewide race, because we got Democrats all across the state that are ready to stand up to Donald Trump, make Maryland a model for how we move forward in these tough times. These are times for forward-thinking federalism, for say, okay, the far right wing wants to take over the federal government. Well, we'll make sure that we control our state, and we'll, frankly, remove a governor who again and again has proven himself to be a doormat for Donald Trump. Say, welcome, Betsy DeVos. Please come tour our state. No, that's all right. I don't need to stand up to Kavanaugh. I don't need to stand up to your EPA chief appointment, even though Pruitt had threatened to destroy the Chesapeake Bay plan from landlocked Oklahoma, and who, quite frankly, Hogan echoes Jeff Sessions on immigration policy, on returns and mass incarceration policies. And so we're getting out and organizing Democrats all across the state. I'm personally part of that, because I know people are ready to move forward in education, fully fund our schools, move forward on health care, finally make sure we all can afford it, we all have it, and get our economy going again so we're no longer stuck. We actually build an inclusive 21st century economy that lifts all boats.
Ben, lastly, but before we go, and I meant to mention this earlier, I don't want to overlook this. You've had the courage to come out in the past few days and talk about something, and that is your speech disorder, although I think that's too strong of a term. Or maybe I'm just so used to being around you and hearing you.
You mean that speech disorder that gets me into a preacher's rhythm, even though I ain't a preacher?
Yeah, that one. That's not a disorder at all. But and like I said, I'm so used to hearing you, I don't even detect a disorder. But you sat with people and talked with people, and that's one of the things that makes you the kind of person you are and the humble individual that you are, is that you're willing to sit down and talk with those who are dealing with, very real issues and challenging issues, but still trying to press forward.
Yeah, I have a stutter. I've had a stutter my whole life. I've had to learn how to deal with it. Mark, the first moment I really thought of getting into politics, the first step I took was to become a precinct captain when I was 14 years old. The second step that same year was to become head of the local Young Democrats. And then I had to debate the Young Republicans. And I stuttered so bad that this old lady who was a hippie walked up to me, shoved a meditation tape in my pocket, said, "Boy, you need to listen to this. Because we want to hear what you have to say, but we can't understand what you're trying to." Well, the Young Republicans still lost that debate, because the head of the Young Republicans had written the answers for all of his folks. We had very bad handwriting, so they couldn't even get a word out because they couldn't read a word. And yet the next day the coverage was good, the photos looked good, and it gave me enough encouragement to decide that I was going to really once and for all figure out how to be heard. And it's obvious when I talk, I'll pause. People understand how to listen for a stutter. They'll see me pause. They'll see me replace a word, struggle with the word a little bit, replace it. Sometimes they'll see me kind of stammer a bit, like I did, about halfway through our interview this morning, and they'll pick up on it. Not everybody does, but some folks will. And so I always felt like, well, I don't really need to talk about it because it's obvious every time that I talk. But a few years ago, I wrote a book called Reach, 40 Black Men Speak on Living, Leading, and Succeeding. And I talked about it openly in there. And then I had people come up to me and talk about how important that was to their daughter or their son. And so I decided in this campaign, that if, given that I was a candidate for governor running who had a speech impediment, who had a stutter, that if I could inspire other young people who have a lot to say but sometimes have trouble saying it, to, in the way that my parents inspired me, to not let them have that hold them back.
You're right.
Inspire them to really say what's on their mind, because we will all do better if we hear it. That's would make this campaign even more worthwhile. Last night, a young editor at a student newspaper from my local community college interviewed me. And we had to take a little more time for her to get the questions out, because she has a speech impediment too. And it was so worthwhile. Mm-hmm. This young lady was brilliant, and we talked at the end of it about what it's like. I encouraged her the way that others encouraged me. In fact, what I told her was James Earl Jones,
right,
Darth Vader, great black Shakespearean actor, has a stutter. And he was on air once, and somebody said, well, I don't hear it. And he said, yes, you do. You hear it when I pause. By the way, that's why Marlon Brando talks so slow. And it's just a reminder that there's more stutterers that we admire, that we listen to, whose words move us, and that's why it's important to me to talk about it and to inspire young people not to be held back by it.
Yeah, and that's what's most important to me, to hear you share that and lend that encouragement as well. A lot of times, folks, some of the things we pursue, some of the goals we set, are not just for their own sake, but also just to show each and every one of us, young and old, that we can still be successful despite some of the everyday setbacks that we face, the things that sometimes we use to be self-defeating and self-discouraging. I can't make it. I can't do this. I can't achieve this because of whatever this so-called deficiency is I may think I might have. A vote for Ben Jealous, supporting Ben, getting involved in his campaign, will also help and inspire other young people to not give up on themselves, whatever challenges they may face. It may not be a stutter, it may be something else. But that's part of being progressive and moving forward and encouraging people just to go ahead and do the best they can to make it. Ben has managed this, done well, and you probably, don't even notice it. You have to, some of you may even be noticing it or hearing about it for the first time, so you almost have to look for it. But that has not stopped him from serving. That has not stopped him from stepping out and helping others in need, serving his community, serving his nation, serving the NAACP. And so we, as always, respect him for that. We encourage you to read some of it. He is an article on his Twitter that the Washington Post, as a matter of fact, wrote about him being a stutterer, and even has video of him speaking on a panel about the issue. So I just wanted to share that, because I think people need to know that human side as well. Yes.
I actually wasn't being facetious when I said my speech impairment that has me speaking in a preacher's cadence. Because I figured out after that debate when I was young, where I only beat the young Republicans because they couldn't read their leader's handwriting. It just hit me. I didn't stutter when I sang, and so I realized that if I would speak with a preacher's cadence with rhythm in my voice, that it was as close to singing as you'll get in prose. As you get giving a speech. And so that was one of the ways that I dealt with it. It forced me, if you will, to kind of slow down, and it builds in pauses. And so that became my style. I guess there's a lot of us who imitate Martin Luther King, grew up in the generations after the I Have a Dream speech in some way. But he became inspiration for me to find my own rhythm so I could get my words out.
And you've done that, and we appreciate your rhythm and the words that have come from it. BenJealous.com. Folks, get involved, help out. We're about 60 days out. Do all you can to support our brother's campaign. Ben, thank you, man. Have a great day out there campaigning. All right, you all look for Ben. Go to look up his schedule, benjealous.com. See if he'll be near you. Go see him. Go support him. Maryland, you got to do this for yourselves. And those of us outside of Maryland need to support those in Maryland trying to do this for themselves.
Absolutely. Sign up. Anybody, anywhere who's listening can sign up at benjealous.com and make phone calls. And please do.
All right.
This is about taking our country back by taking our states back. Help Stacey. Help Andrew, too. All
Amen.
Good people.
Thank you, Ben.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, man. Enjoy your day. All right. Folks, we will get ready to take a break, and then we will come right back, get more of your calls. Where were you and what were you doing 17 years ago about this time? Just going on 8 a.m. Eastern time. Where were you and what were you doing on 9/11? Give us a call and share your experiences with us, if you would, please. 866-99-SIRIUS. 866-997-4748. Don't go away. Sirius XM Progress 127. Resistance Radio. Get woke and vote. Get ready for impeachment. Kavanaugh. This is MIP.